to see the screen?
Yes, sir. We are able to hear you.
Okay. Klam Bharadram Vishnum Chajivaranam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Jayet Sarvavignoprashantayet Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Buddhirbalam Yashodhairyam Nirbhayatvam Arogatam Ajaryam Vakpudatpanchanamasmaranat Bhavet Saraswati Namastabhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambam Karishyam Nirbhautamya Sada पूज्याय राघवेन्द्राय सत्यधर्मरथाय च भजतां कल्पवृक्षाय नमतां कामधेनवे आपादमौलिपर्यन्तं गुरूणाम् आकृतिं स्मरेत् तेन विघ्नाः प्रणश्यन्ति सिद्ध्यन्ति च मनोरथाः. So in the last class we had seen about the inheritance. So I just want to recap once. I saw most of you have got the exercise correctly, so I think you people have understood the concept, but still I want to just go through the thing. So what is inheritance? Inheritance is whenever a class inherits from a base class or a parent class the members and functions. So we saw like how a person the student or employee inherits from person. So whenever student inherits persons, automatically name and address, get name, get address will become part of student. And we talked about different access types. We already knew public and private. So now we understood what is protected. So in protected is reserved for the derived classes, wherein all the protected members are accessible to derived classes but not for other classes. And we also talked about what is not inherited, like the constructor, destructor, operators and friends are not inherited, so you have to define it on their own. And we talked about types of inheritance. In public inheritance, the public methods will remain public, protected remains protected, private remains private in the derived class. In protected inheritance, the public becomes protected, protected remains protected, private remains private. In private inheritance, all the members and member functions becomes private in the derived class. And we define different styles of inheritance. One is a single inheritance, wherein one class inherits from the other class. Multiple inheritance, where a class inherits from multiple other classes. And multi-level inheritance, where there are inherited class inherits from another class. The inherited class inherits from a class which is inherited from another class. We talked about the diamond inheritance problem, when there is a base class which is inherited by two other classes, and then there is a third class which inherits from the inherited two other classes. There can be a clash as a compiler cannot differentiate between which is the read or write function to use, because both of them are now having read and write. So the way to avoid inheritance is putting a virtual keyword. So that way the virtual keyword will make the virtual inheritance. When you inherit, you say virtual, and then when you say virtually inherited, the compiler automatically knows that it has to use the base classes or read write methods. So far so clear, so much is fine. Okay, so with that I want to start another important topic today, which is related to interface and other concepts. So basically, what is an interface? Interface describes the behavior or capabilities of a class without committing to a particular implementation of that class. What it means is, if I want to create an inheritance called polygon, like we know there are many polygons: triangle, rectangle, pentagon, hexagon, etc. So, or circle, whatever. And get area is a common function for any polygon. So suppose I want a function, in this case example print area, so which takes any polygon basically, and then I want to say print area. So in this case the print area does not know what polygon it is dealing with. It just knows it's dealing with a polygon, and then it will just call p get area to get the area of the polygon. So it does not know what polygon it is dealing with. So this is called an interface. An interface is like just like a USB. Think about a USB. You don't know whether you are connecting USB to the computer, or you're connecting to a laptop, or you're connecting to Windows machine or something else. There is a USB interface. If you connect it, it is expected to work. So I mean, there is a well-defined specification about an interface. So you expect that whenever a USB is connected, the power, say a mobile, if you connect to a USB interface, you expect it to charge. So you don't care whether it's connected to an electric port, or you have connected it to a computer or a laptop. So it will just charge. So just like that, an interface is something which defines a contract between the client and a service provider, wherein the contract says if you call this method, this is going to happen, but it doesn't tell you how it is implemented or what it is. It could be whatever computer, whatever machine, or whatever device it could be. So similarly, we can do that. So how do we achieve an interface in C++? So this is how it is generally implemented. What we do is we take we create a class called polygon, and we define the required interfaces. In this case, the interface is get area, and then triangle and rectangle derives from polygon, and then they define get area, and rectangle defines get area. In triangle, get area could be half into base into height. In rectangle, get area could be base into height. So when you just run get area, the function here does not know whether it's calling get area on triangle or rectangle, but it is expecting it to do the right thing. So let's see how we implement it. So we have a class called polygon. We have a protected variables height and width, or base in this case we'll call. We have a constructor. So we defined a simple polygon which has a constructor, and it has a function called get area. So but polygon does not know what get area should do, because it's a generic polygon. So for now, let's say we'll just return 0, because this polygon does not know how to create how to get the area. So now we have a class called triangle. Now this one inherits from polygon. to override get area, right? And we also need to define a constructor because it doesn't have constructor. Triangle, and we'll just call the base constructor. Okay. So similarly, we can have another class rectangle, which again inherits from a polygon, but in this case the get area will return just base and height. Okay, so what was our goal? Okay, now let's see how this functions. So I create a triangle with sides with height with with base 2 and height 3, something like this, and then area of triangle is okay. So this compiled fine. So let's see what happens. So first it creates a triangle, and then it goes to get area. So here we can see it is coming to the triangle's get area and not polygon's get area, and then it will return the area and then the value. So if you see, oh, just because it got converted into integer. Okay, let's see what happens. Let's put it into a variable. In C++, it's always good to do like this instead of directly using output a function like this. So let's see. So base is 2, height is 3. Oh, I know. So area of triangle is 3. So this is so far so good. But what we want is not this one. So here I know it's a triangle, but my goal is to implement a function called get area, which takes polygon and then or else a print area. So I'll take a pointer because I don't want to create another object. Sorry, get area. Area of polygon is say print area. So can anybody tell what is going to happen now? When I call print area,
When we call print area, we are giving the input pointer as ampersand instead of T. So we created the object P already. So it will go to the polygon first and take the area calculated from the triangle, and then it will execute, right?
okay, let's see what happens. So it is saying area of triangle is 3, area of polygon is 0. Can anybody tell me why it is happening? So let's see, let's debug. So when we say get area, we'll go to triangle, get area, and return half into base height, and then it will print area, which is 3. Now when we call print area, we can see in print area I'm not taking triangle, I'm taking a regular polygon, so that I should be able to print area for rectangle or triangle. So I go here. So this is one of the things that you should notice in the inheritance. What happens is this function generally C and C++ are type safe languages. When I say type safe, what happens is you cannot convert one type into another type automatically. So for example, you cannot convert if there is a class called employee. If a function is expecting an employee, if I give student, will it work? So for example, if this function is called toRectangle, which is taking rectangle R, so what happens if I just call toRectangle here, the compiler complains. It says it cannot convert from triangle to rectangle because this function is expecting a rectangle. So, but I am passing a triangle. So this is wrong. This is called type safe thing, because then program will not do something crazy because it is expecting a type, a different type, and you're passing a different type. That means you're doing something wrong. But in inheritance, what happens? The compiler knows polygon is the base class. So whenever you pass print area of T, it automatically knows that okay, T triangle is also a polygon because it inherits from polygon, and this function can act on a polygon. So it can so this function can call whatever methods on the P as long as it's available. And since the triangle is inheriting from the polygon, it should be able to run whatever method you call as a polygon. So that's how the interfaces make sense, because the interface need not to know what polygon it is, but the job of inheritance is to the interface is to give you what you want without worrying about what inherited type it is. So is this part clear as to the type safeness?
So you mean to say if the triangle is referred in the main function, it does not recognize it, right?
So if you see this function, the function signature says it is taking a polygon, right?
Yes.
But here what I am passing, I'm passing a triangle. I'm not passing polygon. Correct? But still the function works. I mean, it compiles fine. Right? So this is because triangle is inheriting from polygon, and the compiler knows that, and then it knows that whenever you call methods get area, it will be there. So the compiler allows this. This is the main basis of interfaces. Like, you don't need to know which exact class as long as it's derived from polygon. Is it clear? Is it clear? Yeah. Because triangle is derived from polygon. So you can specify the base class. So for example, if you have something called class right angle triangle, which inherits from triangle, right? So you can even pass rectangle. You can either pass triangle or rectangle or right angle triangle, because right angle triangle inherits from triangle, which is inheriting from polygon. So you can also have some method called foot triangle, which takes a triangle, but you can pass either triangle or right angle triangle, anything, because it knows right angle triangle is a triangle, right? But you cannot pass polygon into this one, because triangle can have additional methods, right? It can have additional methods that's not there in polygon. So you cannot pass polygon. You cannot pass the other way around. But polygon, the triangle has all the methods of polygon, but polygon will not have all the methods of triangle. So a base class can take any of the inherited classes. Is that clear? Yeah. Yeah, we'll come to that. But before we go there, I wanted to show you that the function can the function parameter polygon, it can resolve in, the whatever the triangle or rectangle can resolve into polygon, and then this particular function is depending on the interface called polygon, and it is calling the interface methods get area. So this function need not care what polygon is passed in, rectangle or triangle. So is that thing clear? Okay, now let's see why it is giving 0. So we saw that this goes inside triangle get area, and then this returns 0.5 base into height, and then area is 3, and then it is printing 3. Now in print area, it goes there, and then it is calling get area here, but you can see it's not going to triangle get area. It is not going to this block at all. It is going to polygons get area, and in polygon get area we said return 0, so it is returning 0. Why this happens is because this particular class called triangle or rectangle or polygon, when you say get area on triangle, it is fixed. The memory area, where the instructions is stored for this, is fixed. And for rectangle get area, this memory is fixed. So this function does not know anything about which get area you are calling. It only knows polygon dot get area, but it doesn't know which polygon it is. So this will resolve into the instruction pointer for this get area, because this guy doesn't know which get area you are calling. whether rectangle or triangle or polygon, but it knows it's a polygon, and polygon has a get area, so it is calling polygon's get area. So how do we resolve this? So how do we tell don't call get area of polygon, call get area of whichever polygon that you are calling? The way to achieve that is a keyword called virtual. In the virtual functions, what happens is that uh, the class will store a pointer to a virtual table. This virtual table will have uh, will identify which class. This virtual pointer will contain the address of all the methods that particular class is referring to. So based on that pointer, this function will be able to resolve which get area to call. So let's see what happens if I don't say virtual. If I don't say virtual, so you can sorry. If I don't say virtual, you can see the size of triangle is 8. Why it is 8? Because it has 4 bytes for height, it has 4 bytes for base. But once I say virtual, if I add a virtual keyword here, you can see the size has become 12. Why it has become 12 is because the compiler has automatically added an additional pointer variable to the class object, which now points to a table. The table has many entries. The table will have many entries, like say I can have many methods, right? So in this case it will say get area is at address 0x001234, something like this. So this is for triangle, right? So this will be there will be a table called vtable, variable called vtable pointer, so which will point to a table which has memory addresses of all the virtual methods. So similarly for rectangle also vtable pointer will be created, which will point to a table which has area of get area for its method. It's going to be different because it's a different method we have implemented. So something like this. So this additional pointer is added. So as soon as you say here polygon.get area, what compiler does is it will resolve to this address. If it is a triangle, if it is rectangle, it will resolve to this address, and if it is a polygon, it will resolve to a different address. So whatever polygon was passed, it already has an address for get area on it. So the compiler does not have to find out which get area to call. So now once we put virtual, let's see what this function does. So now area of triangle is 3, area of polygon is 3, because both of them are calling into the same get area, because now the object P has a pointer to virtual table which points to the correct address of get area. Is that clear? already there, right? Oh, no, void means then polygon, that means it won't return anything, right? Because it will be a different function. It will be a different function, right? If you say void, the signature is different, so it will be treated as a different function. So it cannot become an interface. Interface means like say if this get area was supposed to return something, and when you say polygon dot get area, so it will still refer to void get area. Okay, and it might sometimes it might be it might complain also because of the return value. You cannot overload on return value, so it might complain. So this is how you implement virtual function. So virtual function is a member function that you are expecting it to be redefined in the derived classes. In this case, you saw Polygon had a virtual function called getArea, and then we overrode that getArea with a different implementation for triangle, different implementation for rectangle. So now you can implement a function which uses the interface defined by Polygon without having to worry about which Polygon it is dealing with. So, and this thing is also called as polymorphism. So in polymorphism, yes. Oh, this is because I'm returning an integer, right? So as soon as I say 0.5, it will be a double value. I'm converting the double value to integer. That's all. Just to keep it simple. Actually, in true sense, I need to return double here. But yeah, just to kind of keep it simple and return. So this kind of using virtual function, implementing different overriding the base classes implementation with your own implementation is called polymorphism. So I just didn't want to say polymorphism in the beginning, so that it doesn't look something. It looks something scary as soon as I say polymorphism. So I just wanted to tell you it's nothing but overriding the base class function. So with that, we want to come to something called as abstract classes, so, or using the pure virtual function. So what happened here is, basically in this getArea is basically useless because nobody is going to create a class called Polygon without knowing what Polygon it is, right? So this is basically useless. So what we could instead do, I can make this a pure virtual function. That means I don't implement this function, but I'm just saying whoever inherits Polygon has to implement this function. So I set getArea is equal to 0. This becomes a pure virtual function, and then the Polygon becomes an abstract class. What is an abstract class? By the name abstract, it shows that it is an abstract class. It's not something that you can realize. That means you cannot instantiate an object called Polygon here because there is an abstract class. It does not know how to call getArea, but it is saying that whoever derives should call Polygon. For example, I cannot create a Polygon class, Polygon p1, 1, 1, 2. So when I say this, it says Polygon cannot instantiate a abstract class. So abstract classes are something which are only used to define an interface, and which does not implement the methods. For example, generally the practice is the interfaces are prefixed by I. So here, this is how it is generally defined. I'm giving you an example for iDevice. iDevice can have a virtual function called on equal to 0, virtual void off equal to 0. So here here device itself does not know what on and off is going to do, but whoever derives from this interface has to implement on or off. So we cannot instantiate a class device, but yeah, these are all called concrete classes. The triangle, rectangle, these are all concrete classes because there are no abstract members or pure virtual functions. So some of the characteristics of abstract classes is, as I said, it cannot be instantiated, but you can still have pointers and references to abstract class so that you can use the interface. Like in this example, we have used a pointer to polygon, even though it's an abstract class. We can call the methods on it, but I cannot instantiate an object called polygon. And abstract classes can also have normal functions and variables along with pure virtual function. It doesn't mean that the polygon cannot have a concrete function. This is a pure virtual function, but I can still define my own functions like print attributes or something like that. So this is not a virtual function or a pure virtual function, but still this is an abstract class, and you still can't instantiate, because even if one function becomes pure virtual function, you cannot instantiate that particular class because you cannot use this particular pure virtual function. And yeah, so as I said, abstract classes are mainly for upcasting, so that its derived class can use its interface. And class inheriting the abstract class must implement all pure virtual functions, or they will become abstract too. So if you don't implement this get area, then triangle also will become virtual, will become an abstract class, and you cannot instantiate triangle. So you have to implement all the pure virtual functions in a concrete class. So that's about the abstract classes. Any questions?
Polygon function now become abstract class because that has one visual function, right?
That's correct.
If one is visual function and some others in the same polygon class and some other non-visual function, still it will be an abstract class.
Yes, still is abstract class because it doesn't know how to call get area because it is 0. So even if there is a single pure virtual function, it becomes an abstract class. Generally, abstract classes, as I said, is used to define interfaces. This is one of the design pattern, if I would say, or the design principles. It's to define an interface. Like in many real world scenario, the way the interface is, like you can change the implementation, but you don't change the interface once you define the interface. Say you're developing a web service or a web-based service, like Amazon has some web services. So they will say, they'll give you some APIs. You can use these APIs to reserve a machine or create a machine. But creating a machine, it could do different things, right? Sometimes, previously they were used to have physical machines. Now say they are using virtual machines. So reserving a machine itself, the implementation itself might change, but the interface never changes. So that's why it's very important for any project defining the interfaces of the of a class or of any service that you give. So yeah, so what happened is, now instead of just changing the derived function, what you'll do is you'll derive and create a different class, and then all you have to do is change from one class to the other class, and and implement the interfaces. So now the new class will come into effect and do a different thing. So there are different uses of interfaces, but yeah, this is how interfaces are implemented in C++. So one more thing I wanted to tell you. So here you can see that polygon, I have made it as a public. What happens when I make a constructor non-public? So I have a class called here, whether I define test class for constructor or not, it will automatically be defined for me. So I create a object called test class. So it is building proper. So what happens if I make the test class private? Can anyone tell me? The compiler complains. It says cannot access private member declared in class. So it is not even allowing you to create an instance of an object TC. Test class, because you have made the constructor as private. So you know that whenever a class gets instantiated, the constructor always gets called. So in this case, the compiler does not know how to create the class because you made it private. So this is used as one of the ways to kind of hide things from the client. So one of the uses of this is, say, I can give my own way of creating a class. I can give something like test class create then I can, since I'm within the class, so I have access to this constructor, so I can create a class here, test class t return t. So but I have to make it static because I cannot access create unless I create an object if it's not static. So if I make it static, I can just call it like this, test class : create. So I can create a class like this. So this is one of the design patterns that is used. It's called factory design pattern, where you're not allowing the user to directly create a class, but he has to use a static class to create the class, because sometimes I want to do some stuff here before I give to the user. So this is one of the ways, one of the design patterns that we use. Yeah, that's about the private constructors. But sometimes you don't want people to use private constructor, but you want them to use some other you can overload constructor, int h or something like this. So then I can still create a class with using the overload constructor, not the default constructor. So this will work perfectly. So that way you can hide even constructors from the other classes, so that you can dictate how to create a class. So we will cover more on the design patterns probably in the other classes, but I just wanted to touch upon the private constructors and how private constructors can be used. So that's all I had for today. And did anybody have any questions from this class or any previous classes that you want to touch upon? I can do it today. Yes. 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 this. So hadn't we discussed in the first class, like we have to give using double quotes. So if you have a string S, so right. So so here you said you get Krishna, Pavan, Kumar, right? But it is just printing Krishna here. So why this happens is in the console, when you put a space, it is considered as a second argument. So so generally the others have used something called C in dot get line. Right, I don't know too much of this one either, but if you can either do this one. So in which case okay, anyway, I think I'll there's another way, but generally what you can do in this case, well, I've not played around with this that much, but you can put a quote here. If you put a quote, what it will take is whatever is within the quote, it will take as one string. It is still taking a space as a different. Okay, interesting. Let me see. Okay, so in getLine, what you can do is you can specify and the number of characters that you want to read. So this way you will read the whole line. So this way you can solve the problem. Okay.
What is the key you are using to debug and run the program?
Good question. So the
I'm
first,
not able to do it.
yeah, first thing is you can build the solution. Go to build solution. So it will build you if there is no thing. So if you can just go to debug and see. If you debug,
But it gives a lot of options.
yeah, there is mainly this one. Start debugging. It will just run the program. If you press F5, it will just run it, and it will hit the breakpoint. If there is a breakpoint, it will hit the breakpoint. Now it is like accepting input. So whatever I'll give, and then it will just go to the breakpoint. And here you can again press F5 to run to the next breakpoint, and if you press F5, it will just exit. But if you want to just go line by line, there is something called step into and step over. The step over, what it will do, F10 is step over, F11 is step into. So step over, what it will do is it will go line by line, right? It will execute that line, and then it will go to next line, next line, next line, next line, done. So yeah, step into, what it will do, it will go in. If you say if you want to go into get area, you will come here, and if you press F10 it will go to the next line, but if you press F11 it will go into the get area, so it will go inside the function, so you use F11 for that. Yeah, so
To run the function or use it?
to run F5.
If I start debugging.
Yeah, F5 means it will just run, it won't stop anywhere unless you have put a breakpoint. So let me show you. So if I press F5 it will just run it and it will complete. So suppose if I want to put a breakpoint, I want it to stop somewhere, right? I say I want to see what is the output, so I'll just put a breakpoint here so it doesn't exit the program. So it'll wait at the breakpoint if I press F5, and then I can view the output. F5 it will go. Suppose I want to go line by line to see what happened. Then I press F10, it will go line by line, right? And if I want to go inside, see if I press F10 here, it will just come out. If I press F11, it will go inside that function and see what. And there again, you can again press F10 or F11. Sometimes if there's nothing to go inside, F11 will work as F10 only. But if there's something to go inside, it will go inside. So that's how I use. Okay. And there are many. There are things like here where you can see what all breakpoints are set. You can. Sometimes if you're debugging a huge code, then you put many breakpoints. You might toggle them here so that you can still keep them, and then you can enable or disable those breakpoints, and so that you can make it stop. There's something called immediate window. So here, for example, so in the immediate window what happens is I will have the access to the same variables here. So if I say tc1, I can have access to the same methods. So I can have access to the variables t dot get area. So I can run those methods here. So it helps you to debug. You know, sometimes. And the call stack will contain how the call came. Suppose if I go here, so the call stack is it entered main, and in the main it is in the get area. So sometimes when exception happens, you might want to know like in what path it came through, so you can use the call stack to find out from where it came. It went to line 80, from line 80 it called get area and it is in line 54 currently. So that's what I use call stack for. So I guess, so any other questions from previous classes or this class with respect to inheritance, or so I saw somebody had question with respect to operator overloading.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so who's it, Mahalakshmi?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what was the question?
Sir, how, with an example, how to implement operator overloading?
Okay. So we had a class called time, right? Hours, comma, minutes. So the syntax for defining an operator overloading function is, so basically how do we use this? We say time t1, say 1 comma 1, something like this, and time t2, 1 comma 2, something like this, and time t3 is equal to t1 plus t2, right? So say we want to implement this one, right? So what all in an equation what are all involved. So there are two operands and there is an operator and there is an output, right? So we have T1 on which we are calling a operator function plus, and what are we adding? The input as T2 and the output is going to be T3. So can we treat like that? So we have an object T1 and then we are calling a function addition to which argument is T2 and output is T3. So how do we do that? What is the output? Output is a time. And what is the operator? Plus, right? And what is the input? Again a time, right? And this will become a function. So, and we know this object is pointing to T1 and T is pointing to T2 and output is pointing to T3. We'll go into T3. Is that clear?
So how this point to T1, that is like not understood.
Okay. Yeah. So this is implicit. This is not. I'm just saying how what happens. So when somebody calls T1 plus T2. Okay. Let's see. Let's walk through the code. So we define 2 times 1 comma 2 and 3 comma 4. Okay, 1 hour 2 minutes, 3 hour 4 minutes. Say we'll do this. So what did I tell you? The equation tells there is an object called T1. So call a function plus on object T1 and input will be T2, and whatever is the return value, assign it to T3, right? So when this gets executed, so the function the operator that will be called will be on this object, not on this object, not on this object. It will be called on this object because this is the LHS. I'm sorry, this is the first operand. This is the first operand. So it will take the first operand and it will call the plus function, and it will input the second operand, and then it will output a time which will be assigned to T3. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
So that's why I said when I press F11, it will go to a plus operation, but it has to call plus on some object, right? It cannot just call the function without an object. So T1 will be taken as the object because this is the first operand, and it will input T2 into this. So let's see what happens. So if you see here, this will point to T1 because T1 hours is 1, minutes is 2, and T will be 3 and 4 because T is pointing to T2 and this is pointing to T1, and whatever new time that returns will go into T3. Is that clear? New time will hours plus. So I am adding T1 hours with T2 hours and T1 minutes to T2 minutes, and then I'm creating a new time which I'm giving output, which will be assigned to T3. Did you get it? Okay, so there are different operators that you can define, plus, or sometimes you can define. One of the operators that we defined was int hour is equal to T1 hour, something like this. I can define operator. This is the here the operator is the parenthesis. The operand is T1. First operand is T1. Second operand is hour, and output is an integer. So how do I define this operator? So every operator is different, because here plus operator, this became the object, this became the argument, and this became the output. Here this will become the object, this will become the argument, and this will become the output. So if you look at the ebook that I sent, it has a list of all the operators that you can overload and how to overload them. So to implement this, what I do is, it has to return integer, right? Here we said output is an integer and the operator is parenthesis and input is a string, right? So here you can do whatever logic you have. I mean, in this case, if yes equal to hours, return hours. Is equal to minutes, return minutes. So or else you return 0, return minus something. So when I call so when I run into this one, you can see the input is hour, or it is supposed to be hours anyway. So the best part is I can change it here, I think. No, it's not allowing me to change. Anyway, so the current object is T1, and then the input is hour, and then output whatever you pass it. In this case it will go to -1 because it doesn't match with any of these things. So is that clear? Okay, so any other doubts?
I have sent one picture in this outside. My Visual Studio has no any build option. Only uses D1 D2 something.
Okay, where is it? Where is it? Okay,
There is no build D1 only. So it says Express. Visual Studio Express.
oh, Visual Studio Express.
Different.
Can you press? Yeah, it is different. Can you press Control Shift B? See if it builds.
Control Shift
B.
B, right?
Yeah.
Nothing happening.
Okay. What I would do is I would install Visual Studio Community. If you go to download Visual Studio. So Visual Studio Community, this is a free download. Okay, so this is for individual developers and open source and all those things. So you can download this one. Okay.
Studio community, right?
Yes, Visual Studio Community. So it is free. I think you need to have a Hotmail ID or Outlook ID. Create Outlook ID. If you have that, you can log in with that, and then you should be able to use it for free. Okay. Yeah, Visual Studio is really cool because I've been using that. I know everybody has their own preferences, but yeah, I really find Visual Studio really user friendly. So that's why I generally use Visual Studio. So any other questions on any topic? I'll probably have one or two more. Like I need to cover a few things. So maybe one or max two classes on C++ and object-oriented programming. After that, maybe I will start multi-threaded programming, and then maybe .NET and C# and things like that. So Java was dropped because the current project requires mainly C and C++ and maybe Perl a little bit. So C and C++, I want you to write more code. I want you to practice. I know I saw some people are practicing. I don't know if all of you are kind of writing and practicing on your own by trying to implement different things. I saw Raghuvaman was trying to implement his own methods, so that's good. I mean, that's what we want to do. The more you write, the more you understand. The coding is like that. And you should spend time debugging. Debugging with a program without debugging is completely useless, because if you don't know how to debug your code, you are like handicapped there. It doesn't matter how much lines of code you write, as long as if it doesn't work, then it's not. So did any of you start the project? I mean, was there any communication for you given? Okay, because it was told that from Monday they were going to start something. I don't know if Ahir ji.
There is Arabic language project started already. Before also, but formally we started very fast Monday.
Okay.
Maybe letters are being written later stage. Maybe another 1 month or something. Maybe a program will be involved.
Okay. So are you people seeing uses of C++ compared to C? Are people able to get? What is that?
It's very much useful.
Okay. So I mean, what do people think? Like how C++? So far, I think I've covered 90% of the topics. There are few more useful topics. Then you'll know more uses of it. But so far, what do you think is the major difference or major improvement over C in C++?
I think in C language until the structure and union, they stop there and let the developer further this kind of classes and inheritance also. So that's the big difference that I'm seeing.
Okay. And do you see uses of using classes and inheritance and things like that?
There's no like
I mean, your code becomes so much readable. Like here you can just say C t.get area. It's very clear what you're trying to do here.
another big difference and very good one is we don't have any formats in CSV. Store any variables.
What do you mean formats?
For example, when we store some values for the variable, or when we call back, we have to use the format
input output. Yeah, I mean those are fine. I mean, yeah, those are very minor improvements, right? So, but I want you to get the concept of object oriented programming. So I want you to practice writing more code so that you can see what is the difference when you use C and C++. Right? You can define anything as an object, right? You said you are doing Arabic language, so there you can, if you can have a class called string, and then you can string dot, you can have methods like s dot split, or or swap, or whatever, or you can do um, you can implement so many methods on it, or you can do s plus s2. So these things becomes very intuitive. When looking at the code, it becomes very easy for you to code. And also the encapsulation and also abstraction. So I would say do more and more exercises, do more and more coding to get these concepts. That's the only way to kind of understand these things. So I don't want you to just before the class or previous night start doing, and then just you are spending only time doing that. I want you to kind of play around with C++. This is a very, if you are in a programming field, C++ is understanding object-oriented programming is a very big deal. So your time is very well spent and it's not wasted. So I want you to kind of spend some more time, practice difficult topics, and then you can ask me. That's when I mean, when you start asking questions, that's when I know that you people are trying and then doing something about it. Okay. Okay. So how was Diwali? Was it good? They hear nothing because
You there with family, right?
yeah, I'm with family, but yeah, generally no crackers here. Mainly,
Yeah.
yeah.
He is listener to
Okay.
can see it also, but there is no crackers.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we just light diyas and keep it outside. Okay. Yeah. Thanks and good night. I'll we'll yeah. Thank you. We'll probably have a class on Friday. So then we'll cover a few more topics. So I'll also tell the exercises by end of today. What exercises you need to do.